afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, February 7th, 2023, and we're here for a regularly scheduled town board meeting. As always, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Bob, if you could please take the lead. Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman. And Councilman Bayrod, do we have somebody from our faith community with us?
I haven't seen him yet,
No?
but he could be walking in.
Okay, no, I don't think so.
We were supposed to have Reverend Andrew Montoro from the Community Baptist Church. He's not on Zoom.
Okay.
So I was told that the chief is going to pinch hit for him. Thank you, Chief. We appreciate
Chief
it.
Hangermiller.
Okay, we'll bow our heads. God of peace, we invite you to preside over this meeting. Even if we have different opinions, give us unity of spirit. Help us to listen politely as others share their points of view. Help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome. Help us to work as a whole rather than individuals trying to promote their own agendas. May we have spirit of camaraderie in this room and work together on our shared mission for a greater Riverhead. Amen.
Amen. Excellent.
Thank you, Chief. Nice work.
Nice.
Wow. You're like a natural.
Kind of think he might have wrote some of it down.
I don't know, just in case. Okay, thank you, Chief. We have no announcements today, so we'll ask for a first and a second to please approve minutes from 3 meetings. The first meeting is a regular town board meeting from January 4th, 2023. Also, a regular town board meeting on January 18th, 2023, and a special town board meeting February 1st, 2023. Can I have a first and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern,
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrod.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
And Supervisor?
Supervisor.
Yep, she's here to vote. Supervisor?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you. The minutes are approved.
Great. And Diane, we have correspondence and figures for us, right?
Yes. Under correspondence, I had 19 letters opposing the proposed North Point Riverhead Logistics Modern Class A High Cube Warehouse, that's a lot, on Middle Road. There was a letter from Kelly McClinchy referencing access to the EPCAL property by the Navy. Barbara Blast sent a letter, and they were actually questions on issues related to battery energy storage systems, BESS. Gwen Mack from the Church of the Harvest Food Pantry sent a letter of thanks. Jules Valencia sent a letter in opposition to the site plan application for the Riverhead Cider House. And Jean Fallett sent a letter with regard to trash and litter in our community. Under reports, the building department submitted their January monthly report, $161,719. The tax receiver, total tax collection to date as of as of February 1st, $92,245,490.98. Town clerk monthly report for January, $12,937. And the town historian submitted her 2022 annual report. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. So moving on, we'll move into our public hearing portion of our meeting. And we have one public hearing scheduled today for 2 o'clock, which is a public hearing for the consideration of a proposed local law to amend Chapter 291 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Water to add Article 3, Water Conservation. And we'll ask our esteemed Water District Superintendent to come forward to introduce the topic for us, Frank Mancini. And I guess I should just note for the record and for the transcriptionist that it was a 2 o'clock hearing and the time is now 2:09. Frank?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Frank from the Water District. So this is a proposed code change that covers things like odd and even watering, running a hose without some way to control it, having a rain sensor, not watering the sidewalks or the pavement, the ability for us to declare a water emergency. I know there's people in the audience, we have people on both sides, so I'm interested to hear it. This is what this is about. We'll get feedback. We'll make changes if necessary. Just some of our numbers. We look back at the numbers. Last year, we did break 20 million. On September 3rd, we did 20,047,000 gallons of water on one day. The previous year, we had done 19.6 on June 30th. In 2020, we did 20 million on July 27th. And the year before that, we were just under 19 million on July 15th. So you can see the water usage, the peak demand is what we're worried about, because the system does really struggle on those days. And it could happen anywhere from, say, May to early September. So we're trying to cover these days. And, you know, we are going to build and increase our infrastructure as we add things to the Riverhead Water District. We charge key money for residential. Key money's a little light for industry and multi-story housing, so we generally ask a little bit more from those projects to sort of make it fair. And, but we still have to restrict irrigation. We can't put 70% of our drinking water that we treat to the strictest standards in the country on the ground. And that's what we're trying to mitigate. This year, we also start our tiered rate, so it made sense to combine this with that. And I think, you know, rather than keep going on, I'm interested in the comments and answering questions.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
I'll sit close to the mic.
Does anybody in the audience wish to comment on this public hearing?
Afternoon. My name's Claudette Bianco, and I live in Bating Hollow, and I request that my comments be placed into the official record of today's meeting. I'd like this board to explain to me the rationale for instituting, excuse me, new water restrictions on your residents using odd even house numbers as well as price increase if I use more than 90,000 gallons, while at the same time not only allowing but advocating for millions of square feet of new warehouses, that distribution centers and other industrial building being planned for Calverton. Some of these locations will have thousands of employees and transient truck drivers around the clock as they go about their business. Do you think some of them might flush a toilet or use some water? How many thousands of gallons will be used daily? While your concern for water conservation is laudable, it would seem your goals are incompatible. Your continued approach of haphazardly addressing issues in isolation as if one wasn't related to another doesn't seem to be working. Once again, utilizing an updated comprehensive plan to stitch together many of your objectives could help without creating other complications. When things are in sync, they work well together. As far as I've seen, that's not been the case.
Thank you.
Okay, so we don't play a role in approving development. But you'll notice that every single one of those projects, as a condition of the Riverhead Water District serving them, they're asked to pay to develop the supply or storage that we need for that project. So these restrictions are independent of future development. And the approach we're using is what all water districts do, or public authorities. So whether or not the Riverhead Water District serves that development, that's really the question. If we don't do it, another water supplier would step up and do it. So the water is not the tool to prevent development. And that's really all I'll say to that, because the water district is sort of not really involved. You need this, we tell you what we need to make that, and you take that deal or you leave that deal. But as far as approving the projects, we're not involved in that.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience?
Good afternoon. Robert Skinner, Eileen Circle in Jamesport. I read the stuff on the website no less than 4 times and just came up with a bunch of things that my wife and I looked at and said, really? First of all, part of my reaction to this is I have a system that was installed in 1997, and it is not fully programmable to meet the requirements that are listed here. I realize that it says that there is a mechanism for exemption, but I'm not fully clear on what exactly that means and what qualifies. For example, if I go away on a Memorial Day weekend where you go from the 31st to the 1st, and I set my timer for every other day, then now all of a sudden as I get into May into June, I'm in violation for as long as I'm away from the house, because unless I go and put in a new system, which I'm really not financially interested in doing. It's an integrated system, so the particular type of cans that they have, the delivery cans that they aren't as finely tunable, if you will, to be able to keep water off the street or off my driveway in all instances. The system is set up where I have piping that goes underneath underneath a walkway for 4 different zones, and yet one of the zones, in order to catch the lawn on the other side of the walkway, the water goes across the walkway. Now, according to this, that's in violation, but that water that goes off the walkway goes off into the grass. So I don't see how you can make a statement like that. I mean, I understand in industrial areas where you might not want to have that, but in the situation that I'm in, all of this makes me go, okay, what exactly is the exemption to this? Am I totally exempt? Am I partially exempt? Am I exempt from the 5-day? Okay, I think these are things that need to be looked at a little bit more closely before we approve this, at least as it is written. Regarding development, I think, you know, it needs your systems need to be fully programmed and monitorable for new construction at the least. When I see the types of construction that's being done along Pier Avenue and then realize that they're looking for an approval for 14 housing units on 11 acres up in Northville over there, and I see the amount of lawn that goes in there. If you're talking about allowing this type of development on a residential basis, with that amount of potential usage of water, it makes me question what we're really doing here. I would like to see some sort of different delineation, and I believe it's in place. I just had a conversation with Mr. Mancini, so this is probably a moot point, but I think there's got to be a definite delineation between residential and commercial. I think vegetable gardens have to be exempt. You can't just automatically think you're going to water a vegetable garden every other day. It doesn't work that way. Okay, I've got a vegetable garden that supplies us with a lot of food, and I'm not. And when I'm away, it is, or at least I have the capabilities to water it off of irrigation. But I have a separate line that comes on a hose with 4 of those little fan heads that are directing the water directly on the garden. And that's got to be exempt from every other day as far as I'm concerned. Otherwise, I'm going to do it anyway. And, you know, neighbor wants to say something, then we'll see who then is involved with arbitrating this when a complaint comes in. The other thing I'd like to see with this is some mention of foundational ornamental plantings. Again, your irrigation systems that are done on a lawn can be very much tuned down to target your plants up against the house or an island or whatever. And I think this needs to be exempt from the every other day and questions of drift and you know, not direct application as well. Hoses with movable delivery ends. If you've got a specific planting that you've invested money in, and you want that, and it's flagging on a day when it's 100 degrees and Jim Cantori screwed up the day before, so you didn't run your system because it was supposed to rain. Now your stuff is starting to flag. I'm not going to let that flag, okay? I put a lot of work into this, and I know I'm not the only one, so, you know, these are things that I think need to be looked at, investigated, written in, or if nothing else, when you make the exceptions for the older systems, make the threshold, if you will, for violations to be egregious and not just, as they would say in sports, ticky-tack fouls because your neighbor's trying to get even with you for something, all right? These are the kind of things that when I read through there, we looked at and we says, you're kidding. This can't be done. Again, the description of runoff, wind-driven application onto driveways, or inability to be able to adjust the cans down enough, because I do my own work, so I know exactly what goes into this, okay? It's $15 a can if I go to myself to change it out. I can't imagine what it costs to have somebody come in and change this out so that I'm absolutely in compliance with this. And I know there's a lot of other people who have systems that are older than mine. They're not going to want to do this either. As far as penalties and who has the ultimate say to arbitrate this kind of stuff, I don't get that from what I read. And I think that pretty much covers all the comments that I have on that. I'm hoping, as Mr. Mancini said, that this is an information gathering, material to tweak, et cetera, and this isn't a yes or no thing, because when I see what goes on as far as the commercial end of this and the new residential units that come in, and then I compare that, what goes on, to what I see in my old neighborhood, if you will, off of Herrick's. It's been there for, for decades. I see a lot more water going on those lawns than I see what's going into my neighborhood. And I don't want to see, the older people, what's left, who haven't gone to Florida or have retired to St. John's Cemetery. I don't want to see who's left have to be overburdened with this kind of stuff at the expense of what is coming forward. That's it.
Bob, thank you for your comments. I just want to make a couple of comments regarding what you said. I do agree with the gardening. I mean, that's something that needs constant attention. I understand that. But the one thing that you brought up that I think is really interesting is if you decide to go out and put a new tree in or some kind of a planting in, that's going to require water in the beginning for quite a bit of time, and there's no way to do that every other day. It will just never take. So I think that the exemptions part will have to be addressed. I think there are good reasons to be able to use the water daily, but I think what we're trying to mitigate is, like you said, the differentiation between the commercial that are just blatantly on all the time, even when it's raining 3 inches, and or irrigating the blacktop. Those are distinctly different than some of the things you brought up. Thank you for your comments.
And I agree with that. I get it. I agree with it. But when you train in the rest of what's in there, what I brought up with that, needs some work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, John Cullen, Northville. I think the main situation is that, yes, Riverhead was able to hold last summer when other towns had to do this every other day. But in the big picture, now that you're going to go to every other day, the reason I believe is that because all of a sudden there are 5-story apartment buildings going up all over town. There are warehouses going up all over Calverton. They are going to need an extreme amount of water, and they're going to be taking that water by saving it to every other day. I don't think that's fair to the people, and I just want to let that out. Thank you.
I don't know if I should get up every person or just, let me start, at least break it up a little bit. Okay, so for some of Robert's concerns is, the first person to bring the older systems to my attention was Mike Foley. So we developed that exemption, which the superintendent, I'm going to come and see what you've got. The intent is that you're using water efficiently and you're not just egregiously wasting it. Like Frank brought up, our biggest offenders are, say, corporately owned, maybe a mobile home park or a box store that has sheared off its sprinkler heads, and the operator of the store desperately wants it fixed, but corporate won't approve it. So this is a mechanism for us to sort of push that pressure. We're certainly not looking to go home to home to go after normal residents. The idea that one of your neighbors would constantly call and go after you, that is something I didn't think about, but I'm going to have to mitigate that internally with the town's attorney's office. I think the vegetable garden is a good thing, and the new planting is a good thing. I don't think this is going to be as big a deal as people think. We want you to not waste water, and we want you to use it efficiently. I think things like that are going to be easily overcome. This connection to development is an obvious one to me, and I could see it coming from a mile away. Again, I don't play any role in approving development. It's very clear, and every one of these developments, including the multi-story development downtown, I'm requiring a map and plan for each project, whether it's within the boundaries of the district or not. And in that public document, you'll see us analyze exactly what that project needs and exactly what we need to service that. In some of the big new development, we do ask for money for supply and storage. I think what undermines that argument is the town is committed to building a large 2.5 million gallon storage tank in Wading River. We are working tightly with the USGS to develop the water resources in town. We have the budget to do so. That's what we're going to do, and what we're doing with the money we've already collected with you. That process is slow because it involves the DEC and quite a bit of science and engineering before we execute them, but they are in progress. I'd be happy to talk about them offline or bring you to these sites and show you. But I don't know how else to talk about that. As far as a residential subdivision like North Point or something, we expect key money, we're looking at key money, we expect it to increase, but right now, as it stands, each individual home pays more than $6,000 to buy in to the district right now. To put that in perspective, a small 5-story building, say like on McDermott Avenue, their key money would only be $16,000. So you're only talking about 2.5 homes worth of key money. That's why we look at those projects and we say, you know what? When it comes to the multi-story development downtown, our problem is a distribution problem in that we have a 100-year-old pipe that's small in size, and we have large fire protection demands now that we're going from a single-family home to a multi-story home. So you'll see us work with the developers there to solve that problem, not necessarily a supply problem, because the good thing about those multi-stories is they don't irrigate. So like they use a consistent amount of water all year long. And if that were the case with everybody in Riverhead, we wouldn't need to do anything with the water district. Because a day like today, we're going to pump 3 million gallons of water to satisfy all the 35,000 customers of Riverhead. On a hot summer day, we do 20 million. The difference is almost all outdoor irrigation, which we want you to be able to do. We want you to be able to have your plantings and your lawns. We're just asking that you do it as efficiently as possible. But we're not alone. Every water district on the island is in the exact same boat as us.
Frank, speaking about the 5-story building, what was the cost to upgrade from Peconic Avenue to that building? So my understanding was somewhere around $700,000.
Which one? The big one?
Yeah.
Yeah, over $700,000 to create a loop from Peconic Avenue behind the building and up McDermott. And we anticipate doing another loop from McDermott up and around towards Shipyard. Each individual project we've mentioned contributed a similar scale amount of money. Obviously, the biggest one paid the most, but even 205 Osborne made a similar investment because they're increasing the density there on a 100-year-old pipe. And, you know, that's what we've asked for them, is that's the problem with downtown. It's not necessarily a volume, a supply problem downtown. It's getting the water to all these facilities at the worst time. The developer looks at it from the best case scenario, my building will catch on fire when no one else's does. I think the worst case scenario, your building might be on fire when the next door neighbor's building is on fire. We've got to get water to both. So one line isn't enough. We need to loop that around to something else. So that's all covered in that engineering report we call a map and plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
I think during our original work session, Councilman Hubbard pointed out something that's great. You know, you could have two neighbors physically side by side, and one is watering on Wednesday, and the other one thinks we shouldn't be watering on Wednesday, but based on whether he thinks, you know, Wednesday is an odd day, or I think Wednesday is an even day. But the idea is that, you know, when we set up our lawn irrigation systems, and some of them specifically say 7 days a week, you know, I pick my times, and as long as I think I'm going every other day on my sequence, it might not be the same as him, but the idea is that I am conserving water based on doing it simply every other day.
Yes, exactly. It's the staggering of the watering times is our goal. So we all got that big letter today. I reached out to that man, Mark. He has some big homeowner operation. They've got 8 individual irrigation zones. that was the goal. Now we're in communication. We're going to go into this summer in communication with this individual so they can set their timers that aligns with our best times and not our worst times. So already it's working. We're not looking to show up there and start finding this guy and his community. We're just looking to reach out to him and develop a line of communication. And it's this, that's with the waiver, that's what we'll accomplish with the waiver. Your system can't do this, or your yard needs something different. Okay, we'll work with you. As long as you don't have a sprinkler head firing off into the street for 3 days, 4 days. So I get a call, not only is it a waste of water, but I get a call every night that it's a water main break. You know, so it causes just, it's a mess. So this is a tool we're gonna use to help fix that, but certainly not just go after the individuals.
And Frank, one other thing, I think a lot of people don't realize that when you water in the middle of the day, a lot of that water just gets evaporated.
That's true.
And I think that, you know, it's okay to let people know it's better to, to water very early in the morning, if not 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, we cut them off at 5 because that's when the tanks are empty. And I invite people to come to the water district 3 a.m., 5 a.m. That's when a water district's empty, not just ours, everybody's water district. So that's why we have that, okay, by now you better start turning them off. And we originally had a later restricted time, later in the day when we're completing the fill of our tanks for the next morning. Then I talked to the Irrigation Association, and they had feedback. They didn't really like that. There were problems with that. I took a closer look at it, and I thought, you know what, sometimes a little bit of demand when everything's filled up helps us because it mitigates high-pressure conditions in the water system and allows me to move a little bit more water, where if we're all bound up and everything's shut off, I'm sort of restricted pressure because of complex pressure things in the system. We don't have that much pipe in the river, it's hard to move water across the town. So, again, we're gonna work with individual customers, and we're not looking to target like a little homeowner with a garden.
My name is Keith Lewin, homeowner, property on River Road and also on Sound Avenue. I actually talked at one of these things, it was about 2 or 3 years ago when they did the 301 chapter. And at that point, one of the interesting things that Councilman Hubbard agreed with me on is that we shouldn't have the police and code enforcement wasting their time chasing down people for how they're using their water. That educating people, telling them what the best practices are, and then encouraging that is a much better use of those people's time than going after people and trying to fine them or punish them for not doing exactly what they should. I hope that still is the case, although this proposed law has all sorts of things where different people can enforce and impose fines on users. A few things specifically. I'm very much a proponent of conservation. I've had a 45-year plus career in environmental sciences and climate change. I've known Mr. Mancini from his Brookhaven days. We've worked together. We're still good friends and can work together if something comes up. I also have a background in agriculture, so I have to make one exception. Watering your lawn in the middle of the night is not good for the lawn. It promotes disease. You should be watering your lawn early morning before the sun gets hot, but that's when everybody else wants the water, so they're pushing it back to 9 a.m. That's getting into the warm part of the day, but the statistics on how much water you lose for irrigation have to be looked at. It's based on more than just time of day. It's how much sunlight, how much heat, what the humidity is especially, and all those things play in. The old statement that up to 95% of your water evaporates if you water during the day, up to is a very important word, because as the farmers on the board know, most days, most of your water is getting to the ground. On a really hot, windy day, yes, a lot of water is going to be lost, but you'll notice farmers don't tend to water in the middle of the night except to finish out the day's watering. A, they don't want to get up, but B, it's also not good for the plants. It promotes disease. So specifically on this, I water my lawn Monday, Wednesday, Friday for half of it. It's a large lawn. The other half is Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. That gives Sunday as when we can be out in the yard. We can use our lawns. My neighbor has visitors that come, usually on Sundays, which is her day off. Other people may have Wednesday as their day off, it doesn't matter. Saying it has to be an odd or an even day doesn't take into account people's lives. Right now, I water 3 days a week. If I go to every other day, it'll be 3.5 days a week, so I'll use more water. So there's lots of things that can be done for conservation that don't fit the rules that are written down here. This water cannot water during rainfall. How much rainfall? All your automatic shut-offs require a certain amount of wetting before they shut off. I've built equipment that shuts off on the first raindrop, but that's not how lawn irrigation is done. It's not how it should be done. The things on washing your cars, washing down your driveway, does that really affect how much water we're using and where the water shortages are? How much water are we talking about to tell someone that when they brought their car in, the geese flew overhead, it needs to be washed off, that they can't do it today because it's the wrong day? These things just aren't necessary, and they're not improving the conservation of water. They're just putting an onus on the property owner on what they can and can't do because somebody thought, gee, that'd be a good idea. And good ideas aren't always good for the individual. They may sound great on paper, but we should be thinking about the individual and what they have to do in their life. That's why we want them to be residents of the town. My final thing is the whole section on penalties and offenses, I think, is not necessary until we see there's a problem, unless you want to do it for your large users. If somebody is using 50,000 gallons of water a week and is wasting it because they're not maintaining it, okay, they may be having an effect. But if somebody's water is running a little bit on their driveway or a little bit on their sidewalk, or there is a small leak somewhere, town has leaks on their systems and I can point them out, I've done it before. You know, you just go, hey, you got a leak there, and if they can afford to fix it or at least shut it down, great. Just to threaten them with a fine, $250, not less than $250 for the first offense. On the regulations in Chapter 301, if somebody intentionally damages water district property, it says the maximum fine is $100. But if I'm getting water in my driveway, it's $250. These things seem a little excessive, and I think they're written by somebody who's thinking, oh yeah, this will be a great deterrent. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is to conserve water, and that's what we should be working on. As I said, I'm perfectly happy with conserving water. I'm not happy with putting in a lot of extra things that have no real effect, but put an onus on the property owner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just say, I made a mistake in not bringing Keith Lewin in. When we met with the environmental committee, I should have thought to get him involved, because he is more knowledgeable about this than anyone I know. And for that, I apologize, because I think a lot of his concerns are valid, not ones that we can't work through with the town attorney's office. We'll get through this. But when we met, I should have brought him in because of his extensive knowledge on this and knowing the opposite side of it. So, you know, the things like out washing cars and stuff, I think that's good from a policy perspective, but he's right in that my demand hits from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. That's when we're emptied out. Nobody's washing their car at that time. So it's a very specific problem that we have. And the other things he said are probably all true, you know. But these are things we're going to work through. That's the purpose of this public hearing.
I think the conversation alone today enlightens residents to consider the conservation aspect of it, just by having this conversation today.
How you doing? Good afternoon. My name is Mark Maielli, and I reside at 455 Stonecrop Road in Riverhead in the Highlands at Aquapog. I'm the person that Frank was referring to that he spoke to earlier and today, and I sent you the email of what I was going to say here. Basically, as an HOA, I'm the board president, and we have a community that was built in 2007. was a 10-year process. We went through our history. We were in litigation with the builder. The town luckily came to our assistance and helped us out. During the time, the sponsor built the HOA's irrigation system piecemeal and added to it only as needed and when the development progressed and without concern about the overall system design and efficiency. This, along with the shoddy workmanship, improper RPZ valve installations, it left the HOA swimming in tens of thousands of dollars of additional unfunded expenditures that we needed to do because these items weren't discovered until after the sponsor turned over the property to us. In regard to the proposed amendments to Chapter 291, I'd like to say that as a Riverhead Town resident, I, like most people here, are very supportive of water conservation as it pertains not only to the users of this water district's water supply, but all users who tap water from our aquifers. In 2022 alone, our Board of Directors authorized and completed more than $21,000 in repairs to our community's property's irrigation system in an effort to minimize water usage. Similar amounts have been spent in previous years. This is as a result of the substandard work that was put in when the builder built the property. In 2018, we spent $1,500 and had rain sensors, wireless rain sensors installed. Unfortunately, the rain sensors failed and they never really worked properly. We've had 3 separate irrigation companies come in to explore it, and none of them have been able to get them to work reliably. We looked into getting most of the homeowners, well, I shouldn't say most, but a good number of homeowners, including myself, have gone to the smart control boxes for our own irrigation systems. They work off Wi-Fi. They get weather reports basically from a subscribed service, and they determine, the boxes can determine when to water. Quite frankly, I'm extremely pleased with mine. I can't believe how much less water I used last year as a result of the Wi-Fi. Well, we looked into doing that on a community-wide basis. We have 8 control boxes for irrigation scattered throughout the community. It's not just in, one central area. They're all throughout. The problem with it is we have no Wi-Fi service. Wi-Fi is only afforded to the homes individually. We have 79 individual homes that are privately owned. No Wi-Fi throughout the area. Our service, our cables and electric services provided underground. We contacted Optimum. Optimum said that they cannot give us Wi-Fi in the area, community-wide Wi-Fi, unless every homeowner subscribed to a service with them at a certain cost. They were looking at it like as if we were a condominium, that we had control over the entire building, which we don't. Okay, so that turned out not to be an option for us. So we went to Verizon. Verizon will not service the Riverhead area, or at least where we are, so Wi-Fi is pretty much out. To us, that would have been a very logical and a very good way of dealing with this, but it's not going to work. We also we work with a tech contractor, and he proposed setting up our own hotspot throughout the community, using our clubhouse, which does have Wi-Fi, as the central hub, and then beaming Wi-Fi throughout the neighborhood, but we would need masts or tall towers, and I don't think that would really go well in the community, and I don't think we even have the clearance. So the other issue that we have is, as Frank said, we have 8 irrigation clocks. I pointed this out, with 100 watering zones. Okay, I'm not sure of the diameter of our pipes or the volume that it pipes through. But from my understanding, we just cannot, in the limited amount of time that's provided, the odd, even, not before, we're not going to have enough time to properly irrigate our lawns. throughout the area. We're very interested in doing this in the most efficient way. And our conversation, we had a conversation earlier today, very helpful. And to tell you the truth, I'm sort of excited that hopefully we will be able to work through something. But legislation is a strong thing, and penalties are a strong thing. And I know from my experience in law enforcement, legislation is important, and too often there's not well-written legislation. And it can become a tool that becomes a hindrance rather than what we're trying to accomplish here. So as much as I truly understand that the legislation provides a motivating factor for people, I think that sometimes we have to address that. Town hall meetings are great. How do you get people to attend? I don't know. But, so, in conclusion, pretty much, I still can't, in my heart, support the legislation as it's written. I think that we still need help with that way, but I think conservation is everybody's responsibility, and the legislation needs to be cognizant of the logistics of everything concerned, and especially that of the users, and suitable and affordable alternatives are needed before penalties and fines are implemented. We, as the residents of the Highlands of Aquabog, request that this proposed amendment to the current legislation be rejected so that water users are not unfairly penalized due to logistical limitations to conservation beyond their control. But again, I want to thank you for reaching out to me, and hopefully we can come to some sort of resolution, and hopefully this works. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, Mark Hobner from the Environmental Advisory Committee. We've been working on this water thing for 4 years or 5 or something. One of the brochures that we came up with was Help Conserve Water on the North Fork, and it's in 2 languages, which, as it should be. One of the things that we also pride ourselves on for the Water District is the Water News. It's a lot bigger than it used to be. I remember that used to be like just half a sheet of paper that goes into the water bill that I don't know whoever read, but this is quite the improvement. Fines and the rest of it are for laggards. It's at the tail end of people who are never going to comply, whether they feel they shouldn't have to or don't want to or whatever it is. And the whole 80% before that is all based on education and awareness. And that's what really we're based on, the entire the Environmental Advisory Committee. We worked on Frank with this for a while. I got show and tell. Hold on. Let's get back. There we go. Thank you. Okay. We worked with Glynis Berry for a while, Peconic Green Growth, and we pulled 3 pilot programs together. This goes back a ways now, 3 years. One of the things is the rain sensor, and what I'm hearing, you have 3 new committee members now, it seems, right, from today. Community engagement is extremely important. Not 5, not 12, not 27 people are going to come up with all the answers. It's just not going to happen. That's why you have community engagement. This is why you have people come in and have these discussions. Mike Foley notwithstanding. No, he came up with the first idea that I have an old sprinkler system, and I do too. I realized it after he said that. The 1, 3, 5 thing works great, except I only have 1, 3, and 5. I don't have 7, 9, 11. And when the calendar changes to next month, holy crap, I'm out of compliance. And I have ugly neighbors. So we have to take that into consideration. I've done a lot of research on this. One of the things that South Africa, one of the cities in South Africa was really running out of water back about 3, 4, 5 years ago. And what they decided was that public shaming was a good thing. So they put up a big a website that had little red dots where the people were overusing their water. And it turned out to be up the hill in the high end of all the real estate up there. It was the people with their fountains and their pools and, oh my God, what was going on up there? So what that did was riled up the people who had to carry a 5-gallon jug every morning at 6 o'clock back to their houses so they could cook and eat. And they wound up with the pitchforks going up the hill, So public shaming is not a good thing. We've backed off of that. We're not going to be doing that here. But again, if it's an egregious, I heard the word egregious, I like that. It's the thing, if it's egregious, or if it's, it just, I don't know, the guy down at the end of Church Lane, number 5, he's got a broken sprinkler head, but I'm not gonna go up to his house and tell him, hey, you got a broken sprinkler head. I might now, because I've seen him out in the yard and waved, but I'm not gonna be putting, another experiment they did was they put hang tags, and the neighbors everybody got hang tags. And you'd run up to somebody's door with you've got a broken sprinkler head on, they drop it on the door handle. That's not good. I mean, this led to confrontations. But I think we have enough experience, obviously, from what I heard just now. We've got enough experience, we got a lot of thoughtful people here. We don't all agree on some of this, and that's great. The garden thing, I didn't think about did you think about the garden thing? He didn't think about the garden thing, okay? Neither did I. New trees, oh my God, $200, $300 for a new tree. You're gonna go every other day on a new tree? And new trees need 3 years worth of water, right? Not just the first year, not just the first 2, but the first 3. So I think with all these, what do they say, that situations alter cases. I heard that in junior high school, and I didn't know what the guy was talking about. But this is what this is. This is an idea that the community gets together with their brain power and their experience and their thoughts to get this thing ironed out. And I'm in support of, I've worked with Frank for a long time. Legislation's tough. I'm glad I'm not doing it. It's too hard to make a blanket statement about what we should be doing on day 1, 3, and 5. It doesn't work. So as long as we know that we're, maybe even the people who are watering your boat. You gotta water your boat, guys. I mean, when you come in with a boat, you should be washing it right there at the dock, right? For all of the zebra mussels that came into the Great Lakes, we're washing our boats because of, invasive species, right? All of that. The stuff that's got to be taken off of boats. We didn't even talk about boats. Did we talk about boats, Frank? No, see? So these are more discussions that have to go on. So again, I appreciate the opportunity for us all to talk together. We're not at each other's throats. We're working on this and thinking. And the idea that wireless would work great, except that we don't have wireless. I mean, the technology has to be incorporated as well. All right, these sensors are, by the way, here's a shameless plug. These sensors have been paid for by a grant. They're available to anyone who wants one. Just need your name, address, phone number, and email address. These have been incorporated by the Long Island Community Fund. And we also did the project with the high school to get the smart systems in to the high school back about 3 years ago. So that was one of the pilot programs that we ran out with these as well. So again, let's continue the conversation. Put these people on at the table. All right. We need everyone's opinions. All right. Thank you.
More work ahead. Great comments, Mark.
Do we have anybody else in the room that wishes to comment on this public hearing? John, anybody online? No? Okay. All right, so we will close the public hearing, but we're going to leave it open for written comments until 4:30 on February 17th, 2023 with the town clerk's office. So, moving forward, we're going to invite folks up to make comments on any of the resolutions before the board today. Anybody in the audience with us, or then we'll go online. Anybody here want to make a comment on the town board resolutions? Looks like we do have somebody. And just a reminder, right, Eric, people have 5 minutes for comments on this? 5 minutes. Okay.
John Cullen, Northville again, please. Dealing with over the paintball park and the hockey I see on the agenda today, I ride my bicycle over there all the time. I go there, sometimes they have baseball tournaments and you can't get a parking spot to begin with. They're up and down the street, up and down the entry and up and down the exit to the parking lot there at Veterans. And now we're adding paintball, I see. And during the work session, did he say how many cars would be coming in during paintball time when they're in play? Or did he just talk about basics? Did he mention how many parking spots he would need at Veterans Park during the paintball sessions? because he goes throughout the day, I believe. So he'll be using a lot of cars. The hockey rink will be using a lot of cars. And if you have a softball tournament, the cars are going to be parked up and down 25. Is that legal, Chief? You can park on the highway. Okay, well, it's a little dangerous, but I just want to ask the chief that. And I just want to let you know that it's going to be another parking disaster over there when all these things get put together. Thank you.
So I'll just point out to you that there was a plan in 2004 that had never been developed, and it is our intentions, and we are working to develop original site plan from 2004, which does include 72 additional parking spaces, which will be located by the ice hockey rink. So we are adding,
Going
at this
further
time, a minimum of
to the
72,
west.
72 spaces be on the west side near the ice rink, and that was part of the original plan that was outlined in 2004.
That'll be helpful. Obviously, it'll be very dangerous for kids and parents getting out of their cars to ride the bicycle path on the main road there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Hello there.
On the question of parking lots,
I'm sorry, ma'am, if you could just
Oh.
state your name and your
Oh.
hamlet for the transcriptions.
Christine Schmidt, Calverton.
Great.
And on the question of parking lots and development of large things, the town really should give attention to whether it's an impermeable surface or not. I think it's very important that new buildings, new parking lots should be constructed so that the water doesn't just run off and go into the river and not get into the groundwater. So you should be considering regulations for any kind of large development or parking lot in the town, both for the groundwater and for the rivers.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else in the audience? How about online? John, we have somebody online? Okay, let's bring them up. Kathy, we cannot hear you. I don't know if you can hear us.
How's that? Better?
Okay, yes, we have you now.
Okay, good. Kathy McGraw from Northville. And I wanted to comment on the projects at EPCAL. There are 4 resolutions, and I'd like to start by saying I'm not opposed in any way, shape, or form to these projects. I'm in support of the paintball and the ice rinks. I think it's great for Riverhead, and I'm support it. What I'm troubled by is the way these projects are being pushed through. And it seems to be the way that most things are happening in Riverhead these days. A real concern for the process and procedure and the planning that needs to be done. Everything seems to be rush, rush, rush. Rules be damned. So let me start by saying, I read the resolutions and the attached licensing agreements. They're long and they're involved. And I haven't had much time to review them in depth, so please correct me if I misspeak or say something that is not correct with respect to these agreements. I'd like to talk first about the paintball, Resolution 117. It's partially undedicated parkland, so it's essential that the agreement be a leasing agreement and not a lease to avoid alienation of parkland. And a license agreement has 3 essential characteristics. The licensor, the town, can revoke at will. The town will retain absolute control over the premises. And the licensor, here the town, supplies all the essential services required for licensees' permitted use of the property. Sorry about that. So, with respect to the paintball, the proposed license agreement is clearly at will. It looks to be at will for time. There may be some question about absolute control over the premises, but we don't have the time here to analyze this in depth. I just want to hit the high points. I have a concern about whether all essential services will be provided by the town. I just noted that all of the safety netting is going to be installed and maintained by the paintball company. And I think arguably that could be an essential service to people in the outer areas of the park outside of the paintball premises. And there are also no utilities on this property, no water, no sewer, no electric. And it would say they would need electricity to operate this facility. And the agreement does say that they can seek approval to install and pay for it. Well, that would be contrary to a licensing agreement since the town is supposed to provide all the services. And it also indicates that the license agreement requires a building permit application and a plot plan. I really don't understand, and this gets to the rush. If you look at that resolution, the plot plan is hand-drawn. It's really hard to tell anything from that. It talks about a little parking area, but it doesn't give you any meets or bounds or anything. And it just seems to me all of that should be done before you're signing or approving a resolution, entering into a licensing agreement. And finally, there's no bathrooms there. Doesn't the paintball operation have to have bathrooms? It's not even mentioned in the licensing agreement. I know, and I will move on now to the hockey rinks, that there is no bathrooms, but the town has agreed to build a bathroom facility, and until it can get built, you'll put in trailers or mobile porta potties or whatever. But I think that the hockey rink is a little more disturbing with respect to lease versus licensing agreement than the paintball. And the reason it's a problem is because if this is deemed to be a lease rather than a licensing agreement, there's a requirement that a Q&E be conducted before you can lease this property at EPCAL. And so it really matters whether it's a lease agreement or a licensing agreement. And in considering this issue, I looked at the draft agreement, and forgive me because it's pretty long, and I didn't have a whole lot of time since it was just posted yesterday. But boy, that's a long lease agreement, 15 years with the option to extend for 5 more, and yet again another option for 5 more after that. There's also the issues of whether the town retains absolute control over the premises and whether they're supplying all the essential services. I noticed that the first draft agreement was modified, and the town is now supplying all the permits. It's getting all the permits, licenses, approvals, and paying for them for the building. And also extending and installing necessary water and electric, and the detached bathroom facility. But I also noticed in this agreement that the licensee has the right to expand by building additional related facilities. They can build locker rooms, they can build a new building, and when they do that, they have to get all the necessary permits and approvals. They can also build a snack bar. And again, they can even lease subcontract the operation of that snack bar.
Ms. McGraw, just to interrupt you, if we could ask you to just wrap up your comments. You've had in excess of 5 minutes. We do want to hear what you have to say, but if you could just try to move it along, we'd appreciate it.
I'm trying to move as fast as I can. There's a lot of stuff going on here in 5 minutes. I'm doing the best I can. I'll finish up quickly. I just think there are a lot of red flags with respect to this licensing agreement at the hockey rink. And I've just skimmed the surface. I think the town's at risk, and I don't understand why so much time is being spent to force this into a licensing agreement when all you have to do is hold the Q&E, and then you could just lease the property, which is what this thing probably is. So,
Ms.
I'll
McGrath,
stop
thank you.
now.
Thank you for the comments, we appreciate
I
it.
thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you.
John, anybody else on Zoom for us? Okay. Anybody else in the room to comment on resolutions?
Good afternoon, Barbara Blas, Jamesport. I just really have a few loose comments off the top of my head. Kathy McGraw really touched on many of the points that I was going to raise, but I am not negative about this. I am not an obstructionist. I'm actually very familiar with the vision that was part of Ray Coyne's plan from way back when. I had firsthand involvement over the last 20 years on these projects. I'm looking forward to the redevelopment or to the development of a recreation park up there. But again, what a surprise. I focus on the process. I'm an old-fashioned person who likes to look at a map, okay? You've got 3 projects here. They're sharing resources. They should be looked at collectively. Even from a seeker standpoint, I don't know how you could look at one and not look at the other, especially if they're sharing resources. They're sharing parking. Councilman Rothwell, you mentioned there was a prior plan, yes, back 74 parking spaces. Right now, 74 parking spaces, if it were to be proposed, is a type 1 action. It would not be an unlisted action. It would be a type 1 action under seeker. I have not seen the long environmental assessment forms, parts 1, 2, and 3. If I had, I probably could answer some of these questions that I'll be asking you.
The study was done, and the 72 spaces was priorly approved, so the study was done for that.
Right, and a lot has happened up there since then.
Nothing has happened up there.
No, I'm talking about in terms of redevelopment, in terms of what your waiver from the health department, the conditions of the waiver of the health department, things have changed since then. They actually allocated a 100-gallon per day to the Island Water Park. We know that's not the same situation as back then. Is there a current application or an approved application
Yes,
with
there
the
is.
health department?
Yes,
With the
there
health
is.
department?
The
My
bath, the
FOIL did
sanitary.
not, my FOIL did not reveal a current approved application.
We got approval this week from Suffolk County Health Department for the bathrooms. So we have a waiver from the sewage system, and we have a large scale, and now you will see shortly, coming up, a resolution to spend funds for an engineering firm to take the next step for the full design. But this health department has given us a go-ahead to begin the design process of it.
So I guess
That's a
at that
big step.
time, that had not happened.
It's, I think, like Monday or something we got. So
I-
we've been working on this a long time. We're making progress every day.
That's terrific. Again, not having seen a map, it would be helpful to have seen where the dedicated park area is and how each of these proposed projects, in fact, the ice rink was not contemplated. Multi-purpose fields were contemplated. There are certain things now that were not on the radar screen back then. I'd like to know what the water usage is. I'd like to know what the increase in electricity usage is. I'd like to know are we using artificial ice, or is it water with coolant in it? Is there any concern about a potential pollutant from whatever that ice, is that the ice
It's
rink?
completely captivated, so there's nothing
And-
that's going into the ground, and there's no pollution concerns. That was the discussion in the early part of our presentations here during the work session. So
And
everything
again-
that's there is captivated.
And again, in the future, it would be helpful to have a cohesive approach to these things when they are in the same basic geographic area. They should be analyzed by, under seeker, that parts 1, 2, and 3 should be online so people can look at it. I perhaps would not have been here to ask for clarification of things if the application and that information is readily available. Shouldn't have to foil for seeker documents. You really shouldn't. Let me just look over and see if there was anything else. I also did not understand completely the distinction between a lease and a license, and I did look up certain things. Kathy McGraw went into that much more eloquently than I could. I actually think that's it. I very much appreciate your time, and if it is all possible, could we ask that the parts 1, 2, and 3 be posted on the website so I could see the substantiation for a negative declaration?
And just so you know, it is not a lease. This is something that is being constructed. It is a gift to the town of Riverhead worth $1.5 million, and we need someone to help manage the time, to manage, the activities that take place. But it's not a lease.
And again, I'm not an attorney. I looked up and did some research, and it appeared to me that the 3 prongs that were required for license were not all operative in the agreement that's with Peconicocky. But I thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Anybody else for comments on the resolutions before the board? And seeing nobody else, Diane, if you could please call the resolutions.
Certainly. Resolution 79.
Budget adoption, CP 72302, HUD Home Fund, so moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 80.
Water District Capital Project, 82301, budget adoption, so moved.
Seconded.
Kern.
I'm sorry. A slip of the switch. Vote, please.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 81.
Scavenger Waste Capital Project number 82231, budget adoption, so moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 82.
Ratifies budget transfer for PD vehicles, so moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 83.
Ratifies the authorization to publish a help wanted advertisement for part-time police officers, so moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 84.
Approves request for leave of absence, so moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 85.
Approves request for leave of absence for a police officer, so moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 86.
Accepts the resignation of an accountant, so moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 87.
Set salaries of various recreation employees for the year 2023, so moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 88.
Set salary for 2023 call-in and seasonal recreation personnel, so moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 89.
Yeah, sets the fees for usage of recreation and other town facilities. I just want to pause for a moment. In our last discussion on our work session, we did, believe as a group to invite Ray Coyne to come in and have further discussion along with the Recreation Committee. So I would like to make a motion at this point to table this particular resolution.
A second.
Vote, please, for
For
the table.
table.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes to table.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution has been tabled.
Thank you.
Resolution 90.
Hang on, I need to get there. There's a lot of space here. Appoints member to Senior Citizen Advisory Council, Haglund. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 91.
Appoints member to Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, Holtz. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 92.
Reappoints member to Senior Citizens Advisory Council, Coverdale, Nunc-Pro-Tunc. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 93.
Reappoints member to Senior Citizens Advisory Council, Berry, Nunc-Pro-Tunc. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 94.
Reappoints member to Senior Citizens Advisory Council, Morgan, non-pro-tunc. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 95.
Approve special event Chapter 255 application for Chicken Kids. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 96.
Special event Chapter 255, application American Cancer Society, Making Strides Against Breast Cancer of Eastern Long Island. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 97.
Grants Chapter 229 excavation exportation permit for Browning Hotel Properties LLC, 2012-2038 Old Country Road, Riverhead, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-118-2-3.1. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 98.
Accepts the retirement of a maintenance mechanic 5. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 99.
Accepts the resignation of a maintenance mechanic 2. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 100.
Approved special event Chapter 255, application for Riverhead Rotary Garden Festival. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
This is one of my favorite events, yes.
Hubbard.
Yes. Let's hope for a little better weather this year.
Yeah, really.
A little wet last year. Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 101.
Approved special event, Chapter 255, application for Deshaun Day Briggs Memorial Foundation Incorporated Run for Briggs 5K. So moved. This is one of my favorite.
That's a great one. So moved.
Second. Somebody-
Second.
Second. Vote, please.
Sorry, second.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Absolutely, yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 102.
Authorizes renewal of Music Works license agreement with the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, ASCAP. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
I was going to vote it down just to hear Frank sing, but I'll go yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 103.
Ratifies the fees for the winter brochure. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 104.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute a stipulation agreement with a police officer. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 105.
Authorize the supervisor and deputy supervisor to attend non-pro-tunc the Long Island Leaders Pre-State of the State Reception. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 106.
Rejects bids for water service materials and authorizes the town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for rebid. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 107.
Authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance, 100% of the federal aid and state Marchicelli program aid eligible cost of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 108.
Corrects resolution 2023-64 to extend water meter bid. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 109.
Authorize the supervisor to execute change order number 1, rehabilitation, Route 58 elevated storage tank capital project number 10, Riverhead Water District. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 110.
Resolution authorizing non-proton legal actions against the owners, tenants, and occupants of premise located at 524-526 Pulaski Street, Riverhead, New York. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 111.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider the establishment of the downtown riverfront overlay district. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 112.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post a public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 205 entitled Alcoholic Beverages and the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 113.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post a public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 297 entitled Zero Tolerance of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 114.
Hang on. It's a long resolution. What do you got for me? Oh, I got it. Thank you. Authorizes town clerk to publish and post a public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 247 entitled Loitering of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 115.
Appoints a network and system specialist too. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 116.
Resolution to retain certified environmental professionals. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 117.
Authorizes supervisor to execute agreement with the Adventure Group LLC doing business as Cousins Paintball, Inc. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 118.
118.
2022 budget transfer. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 119.
Standardization of wayfinding signage. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 120.
Amends resolution number 722, authorizing the supervisor to execute an agreement with Buconic Hockey Foundation, Inc. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Sarat.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yeah, I just have one question on this resolution, and I think that, Ken, you can probably assist me. It says that the property is located on 36.9 acres, right? Are they going to utilize 1.5, correct?
They're on the second additional part, which is south of the parkland, which is the additional, the new, the total area, yes.
The total area that would was initially contemplated isn't changing.
Yes.
So what's the total area that's going to constitute the project?
Approximately an acre to an acre and a half at this time.
Okay, fine, perfect, thank you.
Okay, to continue, Resolution 120
Yes.
is adopted. Resolution 121.
Amends Resolution 752, authorizing the acceptance of outdoor rink from Peconic Hockey Foundation Incorporated. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 122.
Amends Resolution number 753, adopted on October 18, 2022. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 123.
Zenith Building Mixed-Use Site Plan Preliminary Approval, 12 McDermott Avenue, Riverhead, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-129-4-5.2. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 124.
Authorize the town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 289 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Vehicles, Traffic, and Parking Regulations, Article 8. Recreational motor vehicles, Section 42 thereof, entitled Restrictions. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 125.
Suffolk Theater Mixed Use Addition Preliminary Approval, 118 East Main Street, Riverhead, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-129-1-8.4 and 600-125-6-66.4. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 126.
Pays bills. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Okay, thank you, Diane. That concludes our resolutions for today, so now we'll open it up to the public for comments on any topic. And a reminder that folks will have 5 minutes for their comments, and we'll of course ask for your name and your hamlet.
Hello, my name is Gregory Wallace. I'm a resident of Calverton. I'm here to address the unpaid LIPA pilots. There are 10 townships in Suffolk County, and it is my understanding that Riverhead is the only town where the receipt and distributions of pilots is an issue. This is not an academic exercise. The continued withholding of these monies from the special taxing districts will enact untold damage on our schools and communities. The Riverhead School District is owed nearly $6 million alone, and there's zero appetite in this community for a school budget that pierces the tax cap. Without these monies, services to students will be cut, and some of your constituents will be placed on the unemployment lines. This impasse is hurting the children of Riverhead. We are hopeful that there is a resolution to this issue and it can be expedited so litigation can be avoided. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Tom Payton, also a Riverhead resident, also president of the Riverhead Administrators Association, and I also have a child that attends Riverhead High School. My understanding is LIPA owes Riverhead Central School District $6 million in unpaid pilot payments. They're waiting to pay, and they need some letter from the town board. $6 million is no small amount. There seems to be a delay recouping this money, and this money will go a long way in funding needed resources for our students. I urge the board to act expeditiously to satisfactorily resolve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else for comments?
Karen Kemp from Calverton. I'm glad to hear that the consultants who will update the comprehensive plan have officially been contracted. However, I am disappointed that the town has voted against having a public hearing for a moratorium on industrial developments. It is an injustice that the community cannot have their voices heard. We need a moratorium because poor planning decisions are being made. As an example, the proposed North Point developers' 600,000 square foot cube warehouse on Middle Road and Manor Road. There are some homes directly on either side of the lot. There's a school bus stop across the street from the lot. This is a residential neighborhood. 20 years ago, the lot was zoned for light industry, but today the area is very different. There are homes all around. This is a bad location for a warehouse of any kind. A cube warehouse that is 5 stories high will overwhelm the neighborhood. During the day, the homes will be in its shadow. During the evening, the structure will be lit up. It will bring increased trucking traffic to the country road. It will bring diesel exhaust. It will bring noise. Our roads will not be able to physically withstand the trucking traffic. A cube warehouse should not be built in a residential neighborhood. Last month on the radio, the supervisor was quoted as saying, "And I'm always going to stand behind this. Anything that is injurious to any community that is going to affect the traffic, the environment, the lighting, and people can't live in peace in their community, I'm totally against it, and it's not going to happen under my watch." The supervisor said this on WRIV last month. Will the supervisor stand by her word and say that this cube warehouse is not going to happen in the residential neighborhood next to homes that would ruin the lives of the people living there? I hope that the supervisor will live up to her word. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, John Cullen. First time up here 3 times in one day. Karen, that was great. I agree with Karen 100%. I noticed that you got 19 letters this week about North Point. I'm sure they were all, as Karen just said, against the building. Recently, last week, Riverhead, top 50 destination in the world. Unbelievable. Somebody's on Smack somewhere. When you go down the LIE, coming east, the last bridge you hit, there's a sign with a circle, "I love New York." When you go underneath that bridge, before some of you won't be up on this, sitting where you are, the first thing you're going to see is a 5-story warehouse, overwhelming and welcoming you to Riverhead. I think it's a disgrace. Lights will be on at 1 in the morning, so no matter what time you go down the LIE to the end, you're going to see the first thing you see entering the last exit to Riverhead, a giant warehouse. And the best thing about it is when you leave Riverhead and you make your right turn and do the loop back onto the LIE, last thing you're going to see, a giant warehouse in Riverhead. Thank you. I hope it goes away, as does EPCAL. Thank you.
Mr. Cullen, I appreciate your comments, and I share many of what you just said. But I will say, I'll take offense to your knock on Riverhead being a top 50 place. Riverhead is a beautiful town.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, what was my quote about Riverhead?
Your quote was, somebody must be on Smack. Who did that?
That was the editor of the Forbes.
Said that.
That's my personal feeling.
Correct. And I
If
take
you
exception.
ever go on vacation, would you
We
rather?
all disagree with you, and I think most of this community
Yes,
disagree with you.
I think
Okay,
you're-
I might have gone, I apologize, I did go a little too far, but I'm in the heat of the moment. Thank you.
The heat of the moment I vehemently disagree with, and Riverhead is a gorgeous place and a beautiful place to be. And I wouldn't be up here right now doing what I do if I didn't truly believe that and think that. And for people to put the town down for some misgivings that every town and every community has when we're trying to develop a beautiful town and a beautiful landscape, shame on you.
I apologize.
Thank you.
I said it wrong.
Well said, Councilman.
Okay, anybody else?
Good afternoon, Taki Turchin, Greater Calverton Civic Association President. Yes, Riverhead's beautiful. Calverton cares. These crazy warehouses and logistics centers aimed at us. The visual representation that was just offered by the last speaker kind of frightened me. You know, like when you look in your rearview mirror and you're entering onto the freeway, you're gonna see that big old tall tower in your rearview mirror. To that point, I have a letter from a resident. I'll be very quick. Obviously, I'm not going to read all of these attachments, but it was from Danielle Kilfoyle. It was submitted to the town. I'm not sure if you were able to read it before this meeting today because it was submitted this morning. The number one concern on the letter is an article from the News Review. Suffolk Cement seeks over $19 million for 32.6 acres at its site in Calverton. That is right next to the North Point property. That's very worrisome. So her letter goes on to say, she's writing to call out what I see as an oversight in our zoning map and codes. And she included a zoning map. I'll refer specifically to the land that makes up North Point and Suffolk Cement. It is a section of land zoned Industrial A. If you look at the zoning map, this section of land juts out like a peninsula into what otherwise is APZ, the Agricultural Protection Zone. I'd argue that this section of land is more invasive to APZ than any other section in the town of Riverhead and is inappropriately zoned Industrial A. Suffolk Cement has existed for some time, and I've never heard a neighbor complain about it. Yes, there are large cement trucks in and out. However, the business operates within normal business hours. It's quiet on Saturdays and closed on Sundays. To me, it's a vital resource to the community and, quite frankly, to the East End, most specifically to the construction sector, which is important to the local economy. It has benefits to the community and doesn't exploit its neighbors. The cement trucks respect Middle Road's 8-ton limit. The aforementioned land housing Suffolk Cement is for sale. I worry about the sale of this Industrial A land, specifically if it were sold to North Point or some other high-cube logistics center developer. This is where the outdated zoning code for Industrial A comes into play from this map, dated 2010. This is where our delay in updating the comprehensive plan leaves us vulnerable to extreme development. The fact of the matter is distribution centers will impact far more residents than just the immediate neighbors. My fear about distribution centers is the balance between risk and reward. The facilities are largely automated, which means fewer human jobs, and the jobs they do offer are in highly specialized areas like programming and coding that require a specific education and a skill set I don't think our local workforce can fill. Their benefit to the community doesn't warrant the adverse effects most community members will suffer at the hands of such development. Traffic, air pollution, noise pollution, light pollution, public safety threats will cause the town to assume significant expense indefinitely. Tax base from such development isn't free money. I think the town will pay a price to host such development. And it seems some members of this board fail to consider the costs and only look at tax base as a whole. Through the comprehensive plan, the code could be updated to specifically call out modern-day high-cube logistics centers and dictate where they can and cannot be located. In my opinion, this peninsula of Industrial A land in Calverton should really be B or C. It's inappropriate for it to house the most intensive industrial uses given its location. And in the comprehensive plan for the town as a whole, it needs to be assumed that EPCAL will eventually be developed to its full potential. What will that leave our town looking like? How will our quality of life be impacted if EPCAL and all surrounding areas are developed fully with intensive uses? I also think that a use like Suffolk Cement, while an intensive use, isn't nearly as invasive as some like a distribution center, and such uses shouldn't be under the same classification. I think the town needs to take a hard look at our zoning map and reconsider the aforementioned area specifically, especially given the potential for EPCAL to be intensively developed. There's one more paragraph. If distribution centers could only be located within EPCAL, it would increase the value of that site to developers. And it's a site that has much more of a buffer between it and the residences, and the ability to have infrastructure that better supports such development. That way, the surrounding areas outside of EPCAL could house more light to moderate industrial development, as our existing comprehensive plan calls out. Riverhead is in a unique position in that we house some of the remaining agricultural lands on the island. These lands are a significant attractor of tourism. Tourism has an important ripple effect in our local economy and benefits many sectors, including but also outside of agriculture. We're pouring significant amounts of money into the revitalization of downtown. The success of downtown Riverhead relies heavily on tourism. Yet simultaneously, this board is failing to protect Riverhead from the distribution centers that will create a wall of traffic and most certainly deter tourism. I urge the board to start considering how their decisions on development will impact our local economy as a whole. I've included a copy of an article highlighting the listing of Suffolk Cement lands for sale and a copy of the Riverhead town zoning map. Thank you, Danielle Kilfoyle, and thank you for letting me read that into the record.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else to comment?
Robert Skinner, Jamesport. I'm looking for some education here, and I'm hoping you can provide it. We have a new entity that's going to be redoing the plan. Is data that was collected in the local hearings and workshops that were done over the past 2 years, is that going to be automatically rolled into comments that are going to be put together by the new entity, or?
I think we should let Jefferson address that.
Yeah.
He's intimately involved with that.
Bob, they are going to be used, but there's also going to be new information developed from future community meetings and
Okay.
stakeholders.
Okay.
So yes, that will be used along with anything new that is discovered.
All right, so the new people are going to have, I don't want to say go through the same process, but they're going to get
It's going to be a
their
little
spin.
different, but it's going to be very similar. I mean, it's going to be community output, and stakeholders and the committee people and everybody else are going to have their chance to address all of these.
Okay, because what I've read, and please couch that as what I've read, led me to believe that there was going to be a far more heavy input from quote-unquote committees than from public in general. And so I wanted to make sure that I was hoping that I was considering that wrong. So I'm kind of glad.
Yeah, no, there will be from the committees, there's no doubt about it, but the people will be heard also.
Okay.
This is the people's plan. I mean, that's, I don't, in my mind, this is, the town has to come together and make this plan happen. It's not me, it's not the 5 of us or 6 of us or whatever, it's not the town attorney's office, it's the people that have to put this plan together. And when I say people, I'm talking about people from all different walks of life, different types of jobs and employment and different ideas. That the purpose of the comp plan is to get what everybody feels, put it together and make it work best for our town.
Any theoretical time frame on this, or?
They're still sticking with the 14 months. Within that 14 months, there will be public hearings, public meetings, I should say, where the public is involved. The steering committee has been revamped, and they're going to be heavily involved. And everybody is going to have a say in this. That's how it should be.
Good deal. All right.
Yeah, and Bob, I just want to add something to what Tim's saying. The town committees are made up of people from the town, many, excuse me, who have been on these committees for a very long time. So these are concerned citizens. The fact that they're on these committees shows how committed they are to this town. So they're, I just want to let you know that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Voices will be heard.
Okay. John, do we have anybody online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kathy McGraw from Phil again. That questioner triggered some questions in my mind. I know there's been a change to the committees, and I'm wondering if you can share with the community the makeup of the committee.
It's on our website. You're talking about the people, which committee are you talking about, Kat?
The steering committee?
The steering committee.
And what exactly was your question about it?
I understand there's been some changes, and I wanted to know if you can share with us who's on it.
I don't have the list in front of me right now. I will tell you, it was many of the same people that were on the original list. They just downsized it a little bit because they felt that it was too big of a committee to actively get work done. But Kathleen, honestly, I don't have it in front of me. I can't off the top of my head tell you the names.
Can somebody, if I send an email, can somebody share with me who's on that committee?
For public dissemination later in the week.
Yeah, what Devin just said, it's going to be finalized and published later on this week. So you will have that
Okay.
information shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
That's it, thank you.
thank
Okay.
you.
We've
Yeah,
already
you-
went
you've
over
already-
5 minutes.
You've already been up.
Keep
You
doing
maybe-
this.
you
We
went
have you
over
well
5
past 5
minutes
minutes,
already.
so.
Please,
so
you have to be
I might have
respectful to
anything
others.
else. If you have anything else, you can certainly submit it to the town clerk in writing, but we're gonna ask that you step aside because you already had your 5 minutes plus.
Oh, okay. I had a question that was about the comp plan.
Great, thank you so much. Anybody else for comments? And John, no one else online? Okay. All right. So that concludes our town board meeting for today. We'll ask for a first and a second to close the town board
So
meeting.
moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and please be safe.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Supervisor.